a minute. Um, who gets the right of way? Oh, he says, "Never mind. I'm gonna go this way." There's a huge herd of bison, you can see sort of in the distance there, and a lot of the bison have been hanging out. We, I think, are at about 130% on average across the park for snow. A ton of snow this year. It's been wonderful, lots of skiing. But we have not been here full time in Gardner, and that's made it a little more difficult for these tours. Let's wander around. There's actually a couple of elk around. Let's see. I see one up on the hill. Where is she? There she is, a cow elk up there. And the snow is kind of throwing our focus off a little bit. Um, so great to see you all. Um, and thanks for these wonderful comments. I feel like I might be missing a few, but I will definitely go back and read them when we're done. It's a beautiful snowy day. There's sepulcher, and here we are with Electric Peak, sort of our mother mountain here in Gardner, Montana, just inside of the park, and the Roosevelt Arch, which we will go wander down through. There is not very much food for the bison, but you can see the hills down here are starting to melt out. So, I mean, look at, they were just right here. Look at what they're eating. I mean, it's not much. If you get down on your hands and knees, you might start to see just the very beginnings of some green shoots. And typically, um, typically the bison are down here just because it's lower elevation, and then they'll start moving up and just basically following the snow melt, following the green up. Marcy slash mom, that is in August, the bison rut, when you have these giant huge bulls peeing all over their faces and sticking out their long purple tongues and bellowing, "Bleh," trying to chase after the chicks. That's what counts for dating season around here. And so I think today is sexy time, Sex in the City. Um, and I think for the most part, I did see that. Yes, the bison rut, I think, was what we were going to. Yes, through my telescope, and I haven't had the need to do that so much because of this wonderful Zoom option. And friends, I know so many of us are so heartsick about the loss of Hago. It's a brilliant idea. When I first started, I was there with John and Liam, and we would get off of a tour and chat about what works and what doesn't. And it was such a pleasure. It was such a neat, interesting, novel thing to do. I don't know if you can see there's another cow elk up there. I'm kind of walking, so I don't want to make you too seasick, but another female elk right there. Yeah, brilliant starts. Definitely a little heartbreaking to have experienced the loss of something that was so beautiful. But friends, this community is not going away. Join us, and somebody throw up that link again. Join us over on the Live Virtually page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I am also personally on Instagram. It's under my business name, which is Walking Shadow Ecology Tours of Yellowstone. So Instagram, Facebook, and now just recently YouTube. I have heard from some colleagues that if you subscribe to somebody's YouTube channel but don't watch a video, you can just throw it on in the background or something. Then you will be unsubscribed as a way to try to monitor bots. So thanks to everyone for throwing up those links. So watch the one video, and I promise I'll work really hard on trying to get some of these other videos up. I have a few webinars and a few things, not just in Yellowstone, but Colorado River, Colorado Plateau, and then hopefully some more things. I don't have Buy Me Coffee yet, Marcia. I need to do that. I do have PayPal. Yes, thank you for that advice. Watching and liking the video. I know, Kathy, these are some tough days. So here we are at the Roosevelt Arch. Many of you have traveled through the arch with me as I'm doing my Gardner tours. I have my friend Michelle, and I know, thank you, Stacy, and I know we have a few folks that are joining. This is Ashia and my dear friend Michelle, who's going to assist me in driving up the what we used to call the old road is now the new road that we're using to access Yellowstone. You're getting lots of waves. um, Michelle is a fellow Central New Yorker where I mostly grew up, but we met out here in Yellowstone, and she is also a guide, just a phenomenal guide. So fire away those questions. I bet you can't stump us. And so grateful to all of you, not just for being here today, but for being a part of this experience. It's been a journey, it's been wonderful. And I can't quite describe what it's given me. It gave touring a whole new life during COVID, and it has allowed me to connect with all of you and so many others from literally around the world. So I'm going to flip back over and we're going to walk through the original Yellowstone entrance here in the North Gate. And you can see up there it says for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. That has actually gotten us in some trouble over the years. What about the benefit and enjoyment of the bacteria mats and the benefit of the elk herds and such? So we've changed our minds a lot ever since 1872 when the park was established as a national park, the political entity of the park. It was created by an act of Congress on March 1st, 1872. Now, when I walk in here, it does get sometimes I get a little bit of wonky service. So just stick with me and we'll go in. I didn't even know for years that these were actually hollow stanchions built by Scottish stonemen out of native basalt. Thank you all so much. And so if I can trigger the light, let's see, there it goes. You can actually see all the way up into here, which I think I can, and I guess I don't blame them for throwing that gate up. Otherwise, people would be climbing it all the time. Um, so for the human safety, I'm actually inside the Roosevelt Arch. Now, Roosevelt was not the president that declared Yellowstone National Park a park. It was actually Ulysses S. Grant who signed the bill that was passed by Congress back in 1872. But Roosevelt was here in 1903, sort of just on a trip in general. This arch is a little incongruous for what we normally would be doing here in a wild natural landscape, but some of the early managers and railroad folks felt like we needed this sort of a more substantial entry to the world's first national park. And he was a big conservationist, and he did create a lot of parks, including the Grand Canyon. Right behind this cornerstone that was laid on April 24th, 1903, are some coins, some local coins, some local newspapers, some Mason documents, a Bible, and yeah, isn't that wild? And so as we glance out back, thank you. Yep, that you can get all of my information on Yellowstone.education. That is my website. Um, and yes, Ian did a great video. Those of you who haven't seen on Heiko Voyager's Facebook page, but also on the new Live Virtually page, and thank you all for posting these links off and on. It's nice to have an assistant because I feel like Michelle's not going to let me walk into a bison, hopefully. And I think most of them have sort of moved on from the hill here. But we are going to go find some more animals. And yeah, Dahlia. So, especially with the elk rut, right? Using my scope, which I did bring. Um, but Liz, I know. My mom, it's hard. I do this too when I'm typing. It's not a bison rug. I think she was asking about the bison rut. Are grizzly bears awake yet? We have had one sighting. I haven't heard of another too. Michelle tells me that we've had another. So I'm sure just the biggest, oldest boars that know how to dominate a carcass and can travel many tens of miles at a time. And um, the sows with cubs are usually the last to come out. I did actually do a snowshoe today with, I had an in person tour with a wonderful family from California. And I did actually carry my bear spray for about the first time. Oh, look at there's a little elk head. Can you see her head? Let me zoom in, just peeking out over the top of the hill here. Um, Hello, lady. The wolves are doing great. We had a weird hunting season last year. Now I am right inside of the park boundary, but just outside of the park, and we're going to actually go for a drive. That's why I brought my assistant along today. Um, so Um, and thank you for all this advice. That's really helpful. So we're looking outside the park. There's a little bit of a snow squall coming in, so the mountains aren't quite as visible as they might otherwise be. We're looking at the front street called Park Street of Gardner. Um, could you show the SUV next to you? Oh, yes. Let's see. That is another tour company, and I didn't even look to see who it was. I recognized the fella. Um, Oh, I'd rather take the snow any day of the week. Oh, Faith, it is lovely to see you as well. Yeah, you can see some iconic imagery over there. I thought maybe Beverly, you were asking about my vehicle, which we're about to jump into, and is not my tour vehicle is much fancier, but I grabbed my personal vehicle. Um, and Dennis, I'm sure you recognize some of this. Oh gosh, hail and tornado warnings. Nope, I would take the snow any day of the week. I have no problem with the snow. Um, oh yeah, no. We may have we may pass a ranger. But I think Michelle, let's go around through the other way. Or I don't know. Do you think all those other bison are still up on the old road?
I don't know.
It's hard to say. Let's go this way just to kind of take a wander, and we can probably stop over there a little easier too.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds terrible all over. Welcome to Yellowstone National Park. We have made our formal entrance. 83 degrees. You can keep it, Joan. I when it gets 83 degrees here, I start hiding out. So we are gonna step into the vehicle. I have never done this before, so I hope you will all bear with me. You know what? Can you plug that in just so I can get in and out? Thank you. Um, Oh, funny. Okay, so we're gonna hop in the car and you're gonna see what a true Montana car looks like with its cracked windshield and such. Hopefully, we'll drive up out of the snow, I think. Um, thank you so much for those links. I do like all four seasons, but I like basically all of the seasons, um, uh, and then I like to have winter for about 10 months, maybe fall for a month or two. And I'm going to roll down the window and we're going to go see if we can see this bison herd up a little bit closer. Dennis, this is new for you. I do not have my daughter with me today. She was in school and I have two back to back in person tours. So this gate was sort of a newer addition to the park. And I don't know. It's hard to say where these bison are going to give us a good look. I think we'll go around the corner and get a better look. But Dennis, coming up is also a new sign for Yellowstone National Park, just sort of right on the corner there. And, maybe pull in here for just a second. I'm going to hop out since we can stop in the road here and just get a closer look at these bison. And then we're going to go drive up the old road. We did have spring break a couple of weeks ago. And let's see, where do you go on your in-person tours? Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing that blue screen. Everywhere all over the park. So today, right now, most of the park is closed to wheeled vehicles and it's also closed to snow coaches. So I'm just going to zoom in here and we can check out this bison herd since I can be still. They're just grazing. When you see a large group like this, it's usually the mamas and the babies. So it's a matriarchal society, big old mama cow that knows where the good grass grows. And many of them are down here at the lowest elevations of the park. Literally, I'm in the park, but I'm right also in the town of Gardner. And I'm not sure we'll have the chance, but if I can, I'll try to find a pregnant bison for you. They're hungry. It's been a long, long winter. I was skiing on my birthday, which is November 9th, on a lot of snow. It was a great, great birthday. Welcome to my 50s, and oh, got a little kerfuffle going on there. Do the mothers look out for all the babies? Not necessarily. Usually it's mom and calf. But that being said, so like I've seen mothers reject other calves that are clearly not them, but or not their own. But right now, we have a lot of orphaned calves because we've had a huge tribal hunt, close to well, with the tribal hunt and with the, state hunt, we've probably, we're down over 1,000 bison this year. We went into this season with more bison than we've had in a long time, um so, typically, no, but it is sort of, you've got your aunties and your big sisters and that sort of thing. So it's definitely they're very, very social animals. Um, and that is so fun, Beverly. I had no idea. November 9th is kind of an unusual birthday, actually. Um, Yes, I feel like construction lasts here for 6 months. They're having a hard time getting going on some projects because of all the snow. Yeah, and I am fairly busy. Okay, we're gonna just kinda do a quick swing here and, just do kind of a big 360 and then, head up into the park, and we're gonna drive. So those of you that were able to join me, on the post-flood tour got to see a little bit of the damage that just the Little Gardner River did. The Yellowstone did quite a bit more further down. Um, and so they have did this like heroic effort to get what we call the new old road. Oh, fun, Sandy, up and running. And so, oh, is that eagle? There's a bald eagle flying around. I don't know if he'll give us a good look. Oh, where did he go? There we go. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. It's showing a little pixelated for me. I know if, and of course he's behind this tree. Hey, dude, come over here. Um, and another one, Michelle says. Okay, sorry for all this. Oh, yeah, yeah, I see. Let's see. We're looking at like dead branches right now. Here we go. Yeah, so bald eagles, and they are just over the edge of the Yellowstone River. And an immature, Michelle says, I didn't get a close enough look. Um, oh, look at it's just soaring here. Regarding the male bison, there might be a few males out there. Typically, when you just see one or two, or maybe a bachelor herd of 3 or 4, then those are going to be the males, and then the larger herds are the females. They get together about once a year and take care of business, and then after a 9-month gestation, starting that's in August is the rut, and then in May we'll start to see some more calves. Holy cow! I'm just chatting away here, and it's already 17 after. I'm so grateful to have you all here. So we are going to drive up the new old road. There are some weird places where it gets a little wonky. I'll try to remember. If I lose you, just sit tight and maybe somebody jump on. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks. Somebody jump on the chat and mention that I'll be back. And I would say I'm gonna try to oh, thanks, Sandy. Well, and it was hard because this is all so last minute. Um let's see, how high are we? So Gardner is 5,200 feet, and oh, I'm so bad with my conversions. I usually have a list with me in order to be able to tell you. You wouldn't happen to know that off the top. 2,000 something meters. So, Mammoth Hot Springs, where many of you have spent hours with me, is up at the top of this road. And I did choose a time when we had a little bit of flexibility. We're flexible on wonky connections, ain't it the truth? Um, I think we are. We're going to climb about 1,000 feet to get up to Mammoth Hot Springs, and we'll see kind of how we're doing on the way, what catches our attention along the way. There's been a ton of wildlife, and you can see kind of looking out the Gardner Basin over here that there is much less snow down here. Keep an eye out for pronghorn too. There's a possibility of pronghorn. There are not enough pullouts. We're all sort of stuck with a lack of pullouts. But right now, we are going through the new entrance gate, and we'll get a wave from the ranger, and then we're going to keep on heading in. And I would say, Michelle, as slow as you feel like going and just pulling over when you can. For those of you, I know we have a former employee on, and my mom, and a few people who have driven the regular now old road that was washed out in at least six different places. um, so the park boundary is actually on Park Street, believe it or not. So if I can do this without making you seasick, we're going to glance back over our shoulder at the town of Gardner, and the park boundary actually follows the line of those buildings. And the very corner of Yellowstone, in fact, the first official beginning of Yellowstone is. Right where the Gardner River, which was where we dealt with the most of our issues here locally, the Gardner River and the Yellowstone joined together. Um, so, oh, here's some more bison over here. So yeah, so a lot. In fact, today was the first day that I saw any elk or bison. That question earlier about how far, where I tour in person in the summer, everywhere, Yellowstone Lake, Mammoth Hot Springs, all the way down to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, which some of you have joined me on. That is coming through scrambled, but it says no stopping in road. Use pullouts. That flashing sign. Thin, not much of a shoulder. This road was $50 million and put together in about 4 months. So a little miraculous. And that was why we had so much accessibility issues. There's an elk laying here. More signs coming up that say stay in your lane, 15 mile an hour on corners. And all of us that live here are pretty curious to see how things are going to go this summer once you have like the 1-800 rent me RVs and giant buses. I actually did travel this road with a school bus. um, the other day, I brought in the local fifth graders from Livingston, and we made it. I was a little nervous. They had their most experienced drivers, but check out some of these corners. So watch this hairpin corner that we're going to go around. Thanks so much, JB. Um, and it's going to be interesting to see two huge vehicles passing each other. Oh, yes, people try to pet the bison every day of the summer. It's sort of shocking that more people don't get hurt, to be totally honest with you here. Um, I'm always shocked that more people aren't falling into the hot springs um, and falling off of cliffs or falling into the river or whatever have you. Um, but more people get hurt by bison than any other animal. And I don't know if you can see, there's a few, and there's one real close to the road. Oh, here's a whole bigger herd here. Um, just tons of bison concentrated. And yeah, it is a little weird that we have bison, that this northern part of the park is actually considered a high desert. So you can see sagebrush and rabbit brush out there. We're kind of getting a few flurries zooming in and out here. More bison. No, it's never the wildlife's fault, to be honest with you. Um, uh, More park rangers, yes. And if you are an American citizen, one of the things you can do is vote for people who support public lands, support nonprofits that support public lands. We definitely need a lot more funding and more attention. The National Park Service budget is like 0.05% of the national budget, and yet we are used often as sort of a whipping post when politics. If we have a chance where there's another spot, I see a few more folks have joined. We'll look for another spot where we can maybe check out some of these bison. Yeah, and I hope that we don't have any folks that get seasick because this is a windy road. Truth, Mel. Yeah, and I saw somebody mention. I know I'm missing some of these comments. I saw somebody mention. Was that the New York Times article you were talking about the bison hunt? I have not had a chance to read it, but I had a few friends that sent it to me. It has been an interesting year. I don't think I got back to that comment about the wolves. The wolves are doing well. You know, we've averaged about 100 wolves in Yellowstone for the past, gosh, like almost for 15 years at least. And that is about what we consider our carrying capacity. There were some down in this pond earlier. Welcome if you're just joining. This is Ashia Mills in Yellowstone National Park on what is entirely possible my very last Hago tour. I've been with Hago since the very beginning. We're looking at some bison out there in the distance. And if we have a spot to pull, probably keep heading up the hill. Um, yeah, some interesting politics around Native American rights, as well as uh, uh, politics, local Montana state politics. I'm wondering if all of the bison ended up down below. I just drove down the hill with my in-person tour, where you tell us where to find you. Yes, and thank you so much for that comment, Anya, and thanks, JB. Yeah, there's a few folks that are posting some links to my Facebook page, my Instagram. I will flash like a placard with that information on it, and you can take a postcard and I guess download it right away. Yep, Liz, that's my company website. So that's got my email, phone number, booking in-person tours and also virtual tours. I may be joining Beyonder. It's sort of been on my list for a while and they actually reached out to me. Service is getting wonky. If you can still hear me, somebody type in that if I lose you, sit tight and I will be back shortly. Entirely, but we'll see. And maybe wherever that pull-out is that you can see the road down below. Is it this? It's not this side, it's the next one. Yeah, we're all still sort of getting used to this new road and where the pullouts are. Sound okay? No pick. Okay, that's fine. You're not seeing much anyway, so just stick with me and we will pop back up here before it's too long. I think it's that next one. And then if you want to look around and see if there's any sheep or anything, you can always dig out the I do actually have my telescope with me in case there was something distant. Yes, the Washington, D.C. tours. I was so grateful for all of you for joining me. Um, Maybe some of you were on the Laura Ingalls. Yes, the Little House on the Prairie. That was so fun. I had such a great time with Aria. The elk ride. It's going to get weird again for just a minute. I'm going to drop service here for a few minutes. And if I do lose you entirely, I promise I'll be back shortly. There's sort of these weird little tucks and rolls. Grand Canyon, yep, down in Arizona. I actually have a house, Barbara, right in Gardner, which is about 100 yards from the park boundary. And so that's where I'll stay tonight and then do another tour tomorrow. Mike is home at our place in Livingston with Aria, getting her to school on time. And she's doing a play with the local theater. So this is her first big foray into theater. And she's so excited. She's got a speaking part. She's one of the lost boys in the play Peter Pan. And so she hasn't let me be very involved. I think she's stretching her wings a little bit. And the eclipse is coming up, so I'm going to get in touch. What is it? April 24th or no, April sometime in April of 2024. First week of April. And my friend Michelle, who's with me today, got absolutely one of the most phenomenal photographs. This is Michelle, who's my hardy assistant, driving. Um, and she told me the name of the town, and I was like, "We're there." So we are probably gonna show up on your doorstep. Nah, there's probably wildlife out here. I don't know that we'll be able to see anything, but this is sort of an overlook, looking down. I am yes, DB. I that's on my list. My husband, who's my tech guy, is working right now on downloading my Hago tours, and I'm gonna have to Beverly, maybe try refreshing because I'm showing 4 bars now, so it should be a little bit better. I also have had the opportunity to work with Wowzitude. Any of you that have family or friends that are in senior facilities, Wowzitude is a wonderful organization. Susan Black that does tours specific to senior living facilities. And so, if anybody has friends or family in senior living facilities, or maybe some of us, definitely look up Wowzitude. I do trips with them. Thanks so much, JV. You are on it. Yeah, if you haven't yet, I only have one video on YouTube, so be patient with me. It's going to take me a minute. By the way, we are looking down. So, right down in here, that is part of the now old road. That is the road that got washed out above and below that stretch that we can see. And unfortunately, it is probably gone for life. Oh, Melissa, do get in touch with his facility because it's wonderful. They make a dish. I have them make a caldera dessert. And those of you, I did not, you can check on the map here. But let me take a minute while, especially, I know I see some new friends here. I'm going to flash a map here real quick. This is a map of Yellowstone National Park. It is enormous. It's about 3,500 square miles. That's about 9,000 square acres. And if you see that circle that I took the liberty of highlighting, that is the bowl of one of the largest volcanoes or calderas on Earth. You could fit 5.5 New York cities, all 5 boroughs, just inside the bowl of our volcano. So we are way up here on the north end, about halfway between Gardner and Mammoth Hot Springs. And so with the Wowzitude tours, I have them do make a caldera dessert, and we just have a good time touring some of the same places that we've done before. Um, I am also, I've been thinking about calling Beyonder for years and just hadn't quite gotten around to it. And they actually got in touch with me. So I hope to be on Beyonder before too long. And then my YouTube channel has one little video on it on how to how to create a deeper connection when you are here in Yellowstone by using all of your senses and optics when you are looking at Yellowstone's thermal features. So it's a short video, only about a half an hour. It's a webinar style. And if you watch it and like it, oh, thanks, Patty. If you watch it and like it, you can subscribe to the channel. But if you don't watch or like it, or even if you just, have it playing in the background, they'll kick you off. They'll think you're a bot. So, yeah, take a gander at that. Thanks so much, JV. Anything that you're seeing? Okay. A carcass. I wonder if I can do this. I don't, I bet I can't. It's going to be, no. So we are actually outside of the crater. All right. If you get seasick, forgive me. I'm going to try this. It may or may not work out very well. Let me see what I'm even looking at. Oh, okay. So those of you that might get bothered by death and destruction, close your eyes. There's an elk carcass down on the river that Michelle found. Now it's going to get a little weird because I don't have my proper equipment. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in. And Michelle, I might need your hand to zoom in on my phone once I get in here a little bit. So if you are, yep, there we go. Yep, perfect. So yeah, we're seeing an elk carcass down there on the Gardner River. Can't quite tell what happened. It doesn't, yep, it looks more, I was just gonna say, it's not been torn apart, so I don't think it was actually killed like by wolves or anything. It was probably a winter-killed elk, which we don't honestly see that often anymore. Before the wolves really got established, we would see a lot. By the way, take a look at that telescope. So we're looking all the way down there on the river. Yeah, and I do have a stabilizing device that makes it a little bit easier, but I'll zoom in on the is it on the other side of the bridge?
It's on the side of the bridge on that gravel bar.
On this side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. So somewhere right down there by this bridge that did survive. Um, yeah, so like with the elk tours and such, if I can get enough subscribers, yeah, so now I'm zoomed all the way back out on the Hago app. Then I would love, love, love to share these phenomenal tours of the elk tours. And Michelle, you still got it in you to drive up to Mammoth?
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
it.
awesome. So we're gonna hop back in the car, and yes, I really appreciate that. Kudos, JV. Thanks so much for posting all those links. Big noisy truck is gonna come here our way. So we're gonna hop back in my trusty steed, my very muddy car because of the rain snow mud mix that I've been in here. And if you can bear with me here, we're gonna head up. It's probably gonna lose service again. In fact, I can see it inside the car. So bear with me for just a few minutes. And oh, very noisy, very noisy. Ah, too bad we're not in front of it. So there are a lot of projects going on in the park. You just saw that huge truck going up, and they crawl up that steep slope. What's the steepest? Is it like 10%?
Something like that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's typical, not very, not a typical highway, that's for sure. Um, so yeah, this is, oh, Barbara, is this your very first time with me? Well, welcome, not my usual tour. And it is going to get weird. So I don't know if you can still hear me. But it's going to get a little weird here for a minute, and I might just let you enjoy the views. Barbara, you're my people. I love weird too. Um, so if I lose you, it might drop entirely. If it does, just bear with me for a quick second and it should pick back up. So if you can hear me, we are outside of basically on the northern slopes of that caldera. And those of you that have spent time like in the Hawaiian volcanoes or elsewhere in the world, um, I don't. It's not as clear of a caldera as you might expect for a few different reasons. One is just because it's so dang big, 1,000 square miles. I think that's like 2,600 square kilometers, if I remember right. The other reason is that it's not as deep as it once was. The lava after the most recent eruption, which was 631,000 years ago, give or take a few days, filled in the bowl. So it's not as distinct. And then much more recently, just about 10,000 years or so ago, we started wrapping up the last of the ice ages. And those of you that have been near glaciers, they're really dirty, right? They move across the landscape and they collect dirt and rocks and boulders and such, and they end up turning into giant green scrubbies and basically scouring away what would have been the edge of the caldera. Now, I hope I don't make anybody too seasick, but you can start to see some steam in the distance. That is the Mammoth Hot Springs, kind of just over that hill. And I think if Michelle's game, uh, go just with us. And those of you who I have not had a chance to tour, I for a lot of different reasons, including the fact that the road got washed out. So we did have access to the park as a guide, but unfortunately, we had to come in at either 5:30, I think it was, or 7 a.m. And then we could only come out at noon or 5 p.m. So it was just too much to try to get up here and do these shorter tours. Also, in my own personal life, we've had a lot of changes, and it has just not been very tenable or feasible for me to do the tours that I love. Hayward, are you on here? Did you make it in? I so hope you're here. Um, we're approaching Mammoth Hot Springs Village, and we're actually on a stretch of hi Hayward, awesome, I'm so glad you could make it. um, so we were talking, Hayward and I were discussing off channel, my Fort Yellowstone tours. So we're seeing some buildings over here that date back some to 1891. Those are the old stables over there. These are all now Park Service buildings. The post office, that white building, is a little newer, as is the clinic, but that huge building in the background, that was a bachelor, or I'm sorry, a barracks that held 200 men. 200 soldiers were coming in. The backside of the visitor center is in view right now. Oh, and Dennis, just for you, friend, here we go. Here's some of the dormitories where the employees live. And so let's see, till when is this park existing as a national park? 1871, I'm sorry, 1872 was the very, was the year, March 1st, 1872 was when the park was established. So we're driving by the Mammoth Hotel here, closed for the in-between season. And they were actually, typically they're open in the winter, but they were not open this winter because of the flood. It washed away. Oh, sorry, we're getting a little blurry here on you. It washed away the sewage system that brought the sewage from Mammoth Hot Springs down to Gardner, ran under the road, and that all got washed away. So we did not have the capacity for visitors. Um, yeah, we're kind of doing a catch-all here for my what is so sadly probably my very last Hago tour. And it is such, I'm so grateful to all of you for being here with me today. It is really special for me to have you here. Road trip, mini road trip, and you're such a good friend for being here too. I promised Michelle, and I did see a few of your thanks come through in the form of a gratuity. I am always so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you here either way, but I am grateful to have you here, and helping to support this platform and support me and my work. And I promised my assistant that I would do my best to help her as well. So we'll be sharing. You guys are the best. Thanks. We're just going to take a short walk up here to what I like to call the regurgitated remains of old sea creatures. Many of you have spent hours and hours with me up here. And let's see, I'm going to miss that question. Um, what is the trail? Oh, what is the tribal hunt? The tribal hunt is where native, and in fact, you know what? This is a really good time to do a lands acknowledgement, which most of you know I usually do right away as we begin. We are on native lands. In fact, the oldest human remains found in North America are just about 70 miles north of me. The Anzac boy, a little 2-year-old boy that was found sort of accidentally during an excavation. And he is related, as far as we know, to just about every native North American tribe, and even some to the in South America. Um, and we are looking at, you'll see other names for it and more modern day names, but this is Red Mother's digging stick. So all of the people, and you guys, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time. Let's see. Is that the, oh, where did that question go from? Are you on the Mega Facebook group? Yes, I am. And there was something else, David and Wendy. Is that the cone of? Why am I having such a hard time seeing this? Can you read that, Michelle, of the former geyser? No, David and Wendy. Thank you. That's a great question. So we are looking at an old. It is sort of Eastern Islandish, isn't it? It's an old hot spring that would have burbled out. It, as far as we know, it hasn't been active for about 2,500 years, but it would have just burbled out of the tip and kept building up and building up. And now it is what I would call an extinct hot spring cone. And though we have more modern day names, I like to call it by the Absalica or the Crow name. The Crow people still live here, and this is their homeland, and they call this Red Mother's digging stick. Red Mother was a witchy old woman. She's, those of you that know sort of Southwest stories about Spider Woman, she's similar. Sometimes she can be magnanimous, but mostly she's this sort of awful person. You know, hunter gatherer trader, which is the more appropriate way to talk about those older cultures. Hunter gatherer traders would not have a whole lot of um, personal effects, but they would have Nicole digging sticks, and so you know a capability of digging up like roots or forbs, you know, tubers, things like that, that they were part of their diet. So it might just be like a deer antler or something like that. And one day, Red Mother got really ticked off about something and threw down her digging stick and stomped off. And so this is Red Mother's digging stick. Um, I do want to acknowledge that we are in the Apsalica Crow homeland, the Tchitsa, the Northern Cheyenne, the Nimipu, the Nez Perce. We are also in the homelands of the Kootenai, the Northern Arapaho, Northern Cheyenne, Oglala Sioux, Shoshone, Salish Kootenai, Assiniboine, Blackfeet, or Scapi Paguni in their language, the Nez Perce, I think I mentioned them, Kiowa, Little Shell, and Turtle Band of Chippewa, and about 49 total tribes that have some sort of ancestral connection with this land. And that's a part of the story that has not often been told. Yep, Sandy, the sheep eater, the Eastern Shoshone, Tukudika in their language, that was their primary food, was bighorn sheep. So certainly bison and elk were around, but not in the great numbers that you see today. It was mostly bighorn sheep. Oh, very cool, Melissa. What a neat story. Um, so we are looking at just a part of the Mammoth Hot Springs. Devil's Thumb, that's sticking out on the right, is very similar to Red Mother's digging stick behind us. And what we're seeing is hot water that fell out of the sky as rain or snow about 17,000 years ago or so, percolated down, got very close to that magma source. Now, I did show you that picture earlier, and I think we've had a few folks join. Let me see if I can dig up the photo that I wanted to show you. Well, am I ever really that organized? You guys know me. Okay, so one last time, I'm going to interrupt your view. Here's a map of Yellowstone National Park. And again, I have not been on Hago very much for the last 8 months, for a lot of different reasons, both personal and otherwise. So I have not gotten around to uploading photos. Map of Yellowstone that they give you when you come in the gate. That circle is the caldera boundary. That's the rim of the volcano, and that is about 1,000 square miles. Well, thank you for the compliments. I don't know if I agree. So I'm going to show you a picture of what our scientists tell us. So here again, I'm going to interrupt your view. So there's the Yellowstone National Park, that green boundary up in the northwest corner of Wyoming. The red circle represents the caldera. That's Wyoming to the bottom right, Montana up across the top of the map, and a little bit of Idaho on the left. And this is what our scientists think is below us, this giant blob of magma. Now, it might not be a liquid molten lake of fire necessarily. In fact, you could think of it as a kind of a like a kitchen sponge that's dried out, and then you add some water, and the water sort of fills in the pockets. That is a little bit like what our magma looks like. So a little bit of dry rock, and then pockets of magma. Oh, we have a little person that just did a header over here. So if you hear some noise in the background, that's what's going on. So yeah, so that is why Yellowstone is higher than it should be. We've been being pushed up by that magma plume. So it rains or snows, and then the rain seeps down, some of it into these plumbing systems that are below us, these conduits. And great question, Andre. If you were here about 300 million years ago, and as a matter of fact, Mount Everest that we were looking at earlier with that banding over there, we're gonna let this fan. It's the end of a long day. So, um, about 300 million years ago, there was ancient inland seas, and so some of those seas had sea creatures. It does sound like a goat. Somebody's like, "That's I thought that child was a goat." No native no, the only goats we have here are mountain goats, and you would not find them on the boardwalk, but it did sound a little bleeding, didn't it? Um, so that banding shows us some layers of the limestone that were created from these ancient sea creatures. You know, you had a shell, a clam shell or something that died and um, drifted down to the bottom of the seafloor. And then that happened again and again and again, creating layers of limestone or calcium carbonate. Great question. And then as the hot water moved back up through the calcium carbonate, it basically dissolved it. And then as it hits the surface, especially with this sort of weak carbonic acid, it's picking up some carbon dioxide along the way. And then it hits the surface. The water can't hang on to the mineral anymore. So it deposits it and deposits it and deposits it. And that's why I like to say that we are literally looking at the regurgitated remains of old sea creatures. And it creates, so now those of you that have been with me tons of times, you know that this is typically, or has been anyway, pretty active. That's another reason why it was a little discouraging to do some of these. You can, in fact, let me see if I can get into this angle. It creates these really neat designs, kind of these mineral sickles, as I call them. That's a dried out terrace, but you can see how thick the mineral was in that water when it was spilling over. And then as the water, the plumbing system might have gotten clogged up with that calcium carbonate, and then a new spring pops open somewhere else. Now, most of the rest of the park, when you see Lake Old Faithful or, some of the other famous springs. Oh, here we go. That's newish up there. This is a little bit more, so that's got some activity going on. And I know that because of the color. So the color that we're seeing is actually living creatures, cyanobacteria primarily. And those of you that have spent hours with me up here have told lots of stories about astrobiologists studying. This is, if you were here half as long as Earth has been around, we would not have survived. It was a super toxic atmosphere. And then something happened really suddenly. Something, yeah, very similar to Turkey. Something happened about half as long as Earth ago, about 2.5 billion years ago, where all of a sudden our atmosphere became oxygen rich. And what did it was this cyanobacteria, these colors that we're seeing. This bacteria began colonizing. It's photosynthetic. So it uses sunlight for food. And then it gives off oxygen, and that's what made all the rest of this possible. So this is, friends, you are literally looking at the primordial slime. And so these terraces form because, just like us, a certain type of bacteria might have a particular niche. Maybe it likes, just like us, if we're moving into an apartment, we like the sunny side, or we like the shady side, or we like the penthouse for the views, or we like the first floor for the convenience of it. And so it does look like a lot of those things, doesn't it? And so the little bacteria will pull just a tiny bit of mineral out of the water and build a little casing around itself. And because it doesn't want to get washed away, you guys are a crack up. And so that is how these terraces get formed. You can see just a little tiny bit of water, pretty cool down here. If you ever see photos of a really blue pool, that water is very hot, at least 167 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's about 73 C. Well, you and me, friend, I'm feeling it. Trust me. Every time when I'm like, whoa, let's not do a close up. Yes, I know these patterns, and it's so cool. It's like fractals too, because we have you have these tiny, tiny little, and this is just right at my feet, right? So I'll zoom in a little bit. And this is, yeah, thank you, Susan. Um, and then we have, so these are just teeny, no, this is fairly cool. I would say it's probably like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I'm not sure if you can do the conversions to Celsius, those of you that are on the other side of the world. But it builds up those tiny terraces and then it moves up to these bigger terraces. And then the reason why Mammoth Hot Springs is called Mammoth Hot Springs is because it's on this giant, huge mountain of um, of calcium carbonate. We call it um, travertine when it's up here on the surface. And I was saying earlier that most of the rest of the park's thermal features is actually dissolving silica. That's the mineral. So when you see Old Faithful's geyser mound, that's actually silica, and that is being pulled out. Excuse me, thanks. That's being pulled out of old rhyolite lava flows. So remember, I mentioned that the um, no, you guys actually might be beating the other tourists. Um, the mineral that's being dissolved and redeposited in most of the rest of the park is actually some of that silica from the old lava flows. Right? Oh, and Jenny, I have to say right? It's all about this community. I have so enjoyed sharing views and information and laughs. And you all know I'm a talker, right? In fact, my mom, who's here with us today, she said, I can't believe they pay you to talk. Which when I first started guiding, like, what a miracle, right? And thanks, Casey. And so I am extraordinarily lucky. I never expected to be a tour guide in Yellowstone. This was not even on my radar as a possibility, and making lifelong friends. Like my fabulous assistant, Michelle Holohan, who is a great guide in her own way. Um, it's really just the ability and the chance to have such a great time, like this family today that I had with me, family of four, mom, dad, and two kids, wonderful children. We went on a snowshoe. We had such a great time. And just, how lucky am I to go out? We had a great wolf sighting. Here's a kind of close up of that map of the whole terraces, and
Do
we're
you
good
want
to
me to
go.
go to Canary?
Nah, look,
Okay.
well, yeah, since we're driving. So those of you I know, and I can't remember, I know there was a couple tours that were scheduled around this. I was trying to find some time. If some of you are scheduled for other tours, and I hate to even look, I'm really hoping that I am not stepping on any of my other colleagues' toes. So if you want to hang out, she is greatest hits tour. We're doing all the things today. So if you want to stick with me, we're going to actually go up and take a look at the face of Canary. Many of you have been up on Canary Springs with me, so this is actually going to be sort of a novel view. And then, what the heck, if you're with me, we'll go ahead and drive back down the hill. If you joined late and didn't get to see the bison, maybe we'll part ways when we have the chance to see a herd of bison again. Um, Thanks, Noreen. This place makes it easy. It's such an interesting place. I have been guiding in Yellowstone. I've been living here since 95, guiding since 98. And it's just, it never gets old. It's so interesting. Things are always changing. I'm prone to saying it ain't no Disneyland. So those of you that have joined me before, we've been up kind of up there is where we've started the Mammoth Hot Springs tour. So I'm glad to show you kind of this background image. And I encourage you, those of you that have taken postcards, I've so appreciated you guys sharing them. And I will take a look later tonight. Check out this snowbank where they've been just dumping snow, literally mountains of snow. Yes, Robert, that's right. We did do that trip to Syracuse. And that was such a fun trip for me to kind of go back to stomping grounds. And I learned a ton. I learned a tremendous amount about the Erie Canal. I grew up with some of that background information, but not nearly as much as I did doing a cram session when we were um, when we were doing that road trip tour across the country last year with my daughter Aria. Um, let's see. Okay, I missed that comment. So we're gonna just drive back down the hill. But again, it's not just my chance to be able to make money, still support my family during the time, especially during COVID and all that weirdness. It's not just the chance to educate the public, which is very important to me, or to engage people in public lands management, things like that. Most of all, with all of you, and I've done a number of different tours for different platforms, but I have loved um, and treasured the community that we've created. It's been really precious for me too. So I appreciate all of you and all of what we have created here. And we're not going away. We're just going to move. I know a lot of guides are working really hard to expand their platforms and stay connected. Yes, what a treat when Patrick came up here. Patrick Toomey from Banff came down here on an in-person tour that he was doing, and we got to do. I think we had some elk rats, so it must have been in the fall, right? And that was such a fun. That was such a fun trip. Thank you so much for these gratuities, and really. And I know it's hard. Not everyone can always throw a dime in the kitty, but I especially appreciate following me on Facebook, Walking Shadow Ecology Tours of Yellowstone, um, and Instagram, same, and my new YouTube channel, which I promise I'll put some attention to when I can, passing by the Mammoth Hotel. And over here, we are looking over at Fort Yellowstone. And so this is what I was mentioning was the bachelor's officers quarters, and then looking down officers row. So this is all Park Service housing now. And several of you have done some trips with me here and wandered around these old buildings. These stone buildings mostly date back to 1907. They had two big bursts of development in 1891 and then in 1907. I'm sorry, I just said that wrong. Yeah, 1907. Um, Looking at the oldest building still in existence, the old postmaster's house, and some of you have started some tours with me there. So, hey, friends, we're gonna just head back down the hill. And oh, thank you so much, Ken. I'm really touched by these comments. Thank um, in front of this guy and not following him down the hill. Good job, Michelle. So those of you that I'm going to readjust my gimbal here, so if it gets a little wonky, just bear with me. We probably lose